And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 11 o'clock news. So, well, what can we talk about? We can talk about COVID, and more COVID. Well, right now in Brisbane, it's 18 degrees and sunny. It's a beautiful day out there. And hey, by the way, by the looks of it, people are following some of the advice. There's less number of people in cars out and about now. In the last couple of days, there were far too many, as our Deputy Premier, whom will be joining in a minute with, and of course Dr. Jeanette Yang also commented that there were far too many people still out and about. So how many people got tested? We will get an update on all of those. So let's go straight to Queensland Parliament House.
Well, good morning. We've just finished our daily COVID meeting with the Premier, where we received a range of very encouraging news for Queenslanders. While we have 27 new cases of COVID-19 in Queensland, 11 of those are overseas acquired on board a ship, the Pan Europe tanker, which is an LNG tanker, anchored off Gladstone. Most of the crew are vaccinated and will be cared for on board unless their condition changes. The 16 locally acquired cases are all directly linked to the Indooroopilly outbreak that we've been monitoring. 3 are students at Ironside State School, 9 are household contacts linked to Ironside State School, 1 is a teacher at Brisbane Grammar School, 2 are students at Brisbane Grammar, and 1 is a household contact linked to Brisbane Boys Grammar. So it's good, encouraging that all of the new cases again can be directly linked. Also encouraging is that the fact that of the cases reported today, only 3 were infectious in the community for 1 day and 1 was infectious in the community for 2 days. So 3 infectious on the 31st and 1 infectious on the 30th and 31st. The other 12 were in quarantine throughout the entire infectious period. So the fact that they are all linked and mostly were in quarantine is a positive development too. That brings our total number of cases in this outbreak to 79. We've had 1,886 cases in total, 122 are active. In the last 24 hours, Queenslanders outdid themselves again when it comes to getting tested for COVID-19. We did 52,351 tests, another record for Queensland, a fantastic result. What we have to do from here is to keep it up. That level of testing, that over 50,000 tests a day, gives the Chief Health Officer a chance to be confident that there isn't transmission other than what we've been able to identify, other than what we've been able to directly link to the Indooroopilly outbreak. Last night, I can advise Queenslanders that the Prime Minister phoned the Premier and they had a very productive conversation. The result of that conversation is that the Commonwealth will bring forward the delivery of some Pfizer vaccines that were allocated to Queensland for September and bring those forward to August. They're not additional vaccines, but they will allow for Queensland Health to do more vaccinations in August. So that's very good news, and it's great to be able to work collaboratively with the Commonwealth to be able to support Queenslanders. I want to speak now directly to the 7,766 people who are in home quarantine, subject to home quarantine directions. And I want to thank them for what they are doing for all of us. They are our first line of defence against this outbreak. They are doing a service to all Queenslanders. They have to stay home. They have to follow those quarantine directions. They can't even talk to their neighbours other than on the phone. Most of us in Brisbane now will know someone who's subject to these directions. And to everyone else in the southeast, I'd say if you do know someone who's subject to these directions, give them a call and see if they need anything. We all want to take care of you because you are taking care of us. Yesterday, we became aware of some delays with online ordering. This is a localised issue around the Intrapilli area because of the sheer number of people in the inner western suburbs and western suburbs who are subject to those quarantine directions. We're working closely with Woolworths and Coles in particular to see what improvements can be made to ensure that we can be getting supplies to people in home quarantine. While they address those issues, though, we've also now engaged our Care Army and our NGOs to assist with the delivery of click and collect orders. People requiring delivery assistance in the short term should call the COVID Recovery Hotline 1800 173 349 or 134 COVID. So Queensland, we're very pleased to be able to report this encouraging progress, but the risk of this outbreak is still very real. There will be new contact sites loaded up today, and we'd urge people to check those, and otherwise we just need to keep it up. We just need to keep that testing rate above 50,000. We need to keep staying at home. We need at least the next couple of days to see what happens with this outbreak. But what we know is that when we work together, we can do this.
So this is very encouraging news for Queensland, and the South East Corner have done an amazing job to get us to this position. So more than 50,000 tests in 2 days running. Let's keep that going so we can make sure that there aren't any other cases out there that we're unaware of. These cases related to the schools we know about, and all of those people have been doing a first-class job and staying at home. So today we saw a lot of close contacts in households positive. That is difficult, of course, for those individuals who now have COVID, but it's good for the rest of us because they tested negative when they went into quarantine and are now testing positive, so they are no risk at all to the community. And I thank every single one of those households that went into quarantine when they were asked to do so. So there are only those 4 cases today that were out and about during their infectious period, and between the 4 of them there were only 5 days that they were out in the community while infectious, and those 5 days all happened while we were in that lockdown, so there should have been minimal interaction. But of course we'll work with them and see where they were, and we'll put up those exposure venues on our website. So could everyone please check that you haven't been to one of those new exposure venues or one of the other exposure venues that are already on the site. So this is excellent. So the message going forward, please, any symptoms at all, anywhere in Queensland, but particularly in the southeast corner, come forward and get tested immediately. The sooner we find you, the sooner we can block down any chain of transmission. And for everyone else, if you're subject to those stay-at-home orders because you live in one of those 11 LGAs, please just stay at home. It's really important because, as you can see today, we have got those 5 days from today's cases, those 4 people who are out and about while infectious. But hopefully, given we had that lockdown in place, they didn't come into contact with too many people. But we know it only takes a few seconds and you can transmit this Delta variant. It is so transmissible. So please everyone, just till we get totally on top of this, stay at home if you possibly can. That's really, really important. But come out and get tested if you have any symptoms so we can find that first case in our next cluster going forward. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Queensland. Tens of thousands of people came out and got tested over the last 24 hours. Please keep up this great work over the next few days. And of course, as the Deputy Premier said, can we thank those over 7,700 people who are home quarantining right now. Please, the only reason these people can leave home is for a test. No other reason. If they're a close contact and if they need any assistance whatsoever, they should ring our 134 COVID line. We have our Care Army out there to support people. And of course, if you know someone who's a close contact, as the Deputy Premier said, reach out by phone and see if there's any support you can give them. but of course you cannot visit them or have any contact. We are very pleased with the news overnight around the vaccinations. So we welcome the 112,320 extra visors that are being brought forward from September. We've been advised that half of those vaccines will arrive next week, with the following half the following week. So we will immediately start planning for those extra doses and where we will focus the delivery of those extra vaccines. I also can advise that we've been working really hard with the Pharmacy Guild and can confirm that we are providing 22,600 doses of AstraZeneca to 113 pharmacies over the next couple of days. Those deliveries will start today. So we are providing AstraZeneca as well as the consumables that pharmacies need to start vaccinating in the next couple of days while they wait for the extra deliveries to arrive from the Commonwealth next week. So this means more pharmacies coming online earlier, and I think that's fantastic news, and I thank the pharmacies for working closely with us on that. Sadly, we have seen globally us kick over the 200 million mark of official positive confirmed cases of COVID. We've had 4.2 million deaths reported globally, and Indonesia overnight have reported 1,747 deaths. And sadly, we heard the news out of New South Wales yesterday. 2 deaths, including a 27-year-old who had only recently been married and had no underlying health conditions. This is really, really sad news. And it reminds us why what we are doing is so important. We know what we need to do. We know we can do it. Let's make sure we keep everyone in our community safe by staying at home, complying with the orders, and of course going out and getting tested. If you wake up this morning feeling unwell, you have any symptoms, go get a test today. Please don't wait another day or two. As soon as you have symptoms, go get tested. If we do all of this and we do it together, we will get through this. Thank you.
So there you are, ladies and gentlemen. That is good news. Well, yes, well done, Queenslanders. Let's do this. Let's, as we said, that we can do it, and we can only do it together. So, over 52,000 tests there. That is phenomenal. The numbers very good. And as I mentioned before, that today I can see less number of people out and about, and the traffic's much less than other days as well. Well, right now, let's take a look at, all around the nation, what's happening as the numbers of vaccinations are at a record level.
We are starting to see some record vaccination numbers now.
Yeah, hi Michael, hi Lisa. That's really fantastic news that we're seeing consistently on weekdays now, more than 200,000 vaccine doses going into arms, and this curve is just ticking up. So we had a record day yesterday, almost 214,000 vaccine doses across the country, and I think it's been a while since we've seen a weekday without a 200,000 number. Yesterday was Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, all the way through, more than 200,000 doses today. That was the magic number at the beginning of this campaign to get everyone vaccinated by October. Obviously, we haven't got there until now, so the target is higher and the deadline is longer, but we are now getting to those sorts of numbers that we were hoping to get to right at the beginning of the rollout. And what that's taken us to is a vaccination rate, well, 2/7 of the way to the 70% Phase B trigger. 20.2% of people have had both doses, 41.9% are halfway there, or at least halfway there already. That includes the 20.2, and that is the progress that we've made so far. And I just want to show you, Michael, as well, the breakdown of how each age group is getting towards some of those triggers. What we've started to see is the vaccination speed among people 70 or over has really started to slow down. You would expect that, given that we've now got 80% in most of these age groups with at least a first dose. And what we're seeing is about 2% of people 70 or over, or a little bit less in the older age groups, are coming forward each week. So that's slowing down. The question will be, how fast does it slow down, and when do we see this plateau? And I'm hoping it's not at 80. I'm hoping it doesn't plateau until we get above 90, that will be a really key thing in terms of reducing the number of vulnerable people that are susceptible to really serious disease here. But the fastest age group at the moment are people in their 50s coming forward. We're seeing something like 4.5% of people in their 50s coming forward for a first or a second, coming forward for a first dose of a vaccine every week at the moment. That is the group that, at the moment, most eager to get vaccinated.
As someone proudly in that age group.
And that is once again very good to see. But the vaccination rates are going up, but also the eruption of COVID-19 still continues throughout the country.
Today, the country detected 251 new COVID cases. Most of those new cases are in New South Wales, where it's still unlikely the outbreak has peaked.
Unfortunately, we did have 233 cases of community transmission in the last 24 hours. At least 47 of those at this stage were infectious in the community for that time, and that's the number we're desperate to see reduce.
And a reminder, the Delta variant impacts younger people more than other strains.
A male in his 20s passed away at home with COVID from southwestern Sydney overnight.
We are dealing with one of the most challenging times that we've ever experienced as a nation.
I know that life will look differently on August 29 if we get those vaccination rates up and if we get the case numbers down.
The numbers in Queensland also continue to grow, with 16 new locally acquired cases.
In less than a week, this has become our biggest outbreak since the first wave last year.
The Queensland outbreak has seen more than 400 Queensland health workers in forced isolation due to a growing number of exposure sites, including 7 schools.
The suburbs and the schools which were affected by COVID and children, an awful lot of doctors, other health workers live in those suburbs and send their kids to those schools, so it's having a big impact.
Victoria started the day with 0 cases before a new case was confirmed in the afternoon. And a Perth FIFO worker may have been infectious in the community, returning a week positive.
And that is very, very sad news, looking at all the cases throughout the country. And let's take a look at that report where that man in his 20s unfortunately passed away.
Masked, united in grief. This is the scene of this emergency's latest heartache.
I heard the first is crying and then shouting and howling.
27-year-old Orde Auska tested positive a fortnight ago. He was isolating at home.
He was being checked daily and he did complain of feeling a little fatigued.
But Mr Auska's condition took a rapid turn.
He said that I'm going to go have a shower, guys, and I'll call you back. So he went to the shower, and then after that his heart just stopped.
The forklift operator recently married. He and his wife made this their home.
You can imagine the trauma for that other person who is now being hospitalised. That person also had COVID.
A woman in her 80s has also died. In Campbelltown, more than 100 units are under police guard.
Never in a million years would I thought that I would be stuck in an apartment building.
Pauline Tumasanya says some of her neighbours are going without.
I asked one of the police officers that was outside and they said we can't get anything at the moment, not even deliveries.
9 cases have been confirmed in the complex. Officials are pleading with residents everywhere to mask up.
Also sharing lifts with people, minimise your exposure to any common areas.
Aged care homes are also in lockdown. Surveillance testing has caught an infection in a staff member who works here at Stanmore. And in Summer Hill, this cluster has grown to 22.
Now, I'm not going to rule out case numbers won't get worse. I actually think they will get worse.
Less than half of today's cases were isolating while they were sick. 47 were out and about when they were infectious. The movements of the other 73 are still unknown.
And the number of potential exposure sites is growing rapidly. About 200 venues have been added to the list. More than a dozen are here in Cabramatta. Extra contact tracers are working around the clock to try to keep up.
We are dealing with one of the most challenging times that we've ever experienced as a nation. And I would ask everyone to do their bit.
Soldiers have joined police on the beat to guarantee that happens. Tim Swanston, ABC News, Sydney.
And of course, the Defence Force coming in there to help the police as well to make sure that the rules and regulations are upheld and that the lockdown is a lockdown and not lockdown for some and others are roaming about in the streets. Well, at this rate of vaccination, what could we see happening soon? What about 80 of the people?
In the race to vaccinate, the smallest states and territories are out in front.
Today is a historic day for Tasmania.
We have now reached more than 50% of first doses in the ACT and Tasmania.
A milestone signalling a turnaround in what's been a slow and chaotic marathon so far.
213,000 doses yesterday, 1.2 million doses across 7 days. These are very solid numbers.
By early next month, Australians over 30 are set to join the national rollout as more supplies arrive. 10 million doses of AstraZeneca, Pfizer and the yet-to-be-approved Moderna are due in September alone. The big scale-up begins in October when monthly deliveries jump to 15 million doses, largely driven by increased Pfizer. That's when 16 to 29-year-olds are expected to become eligible at last. And they'll be able to get their shots at more locations in workplaces, schools, shopping centres, places of worship, even drive-through clinics. If all goes to plan, 70% of eligible Australians could potentially be vaccinated by November, 80% by December.
Mathematically, we can get there, but public willingness to come forward is key.
Just because he failed his previous vaccine targets, Scott Morrison can't muddle through this time.
I'm going to roll up.
Government-commissioned research indicates about a quarter of Australians are unsure about getting a jab, and they're the ones who may need an incentive.
And there's cash, there's the ideas of lotteries, all of these things have been discussed.
Is indeed Lieutenant General Fruin correct?
The Prime Minister laughed off Labor's suggestion of a $300 cash for jabs plan.
$6 billion of taxpayers' money.
For now at least, the government reckons the greatest incentive to get vaccinated is the potential for life to return to normal and for Fortress Australia to reopen to the world. Australians will eventually need a vaccine passport to travel overseas, but there isn't an agreement yet on how such a certificate would be used domestically. Jane Norman, ABC News.
And of course, how would that certificate be used? I remember the days when we used to have that certificate, and without that you couldn't travel. That's a way back. I'm talking about the 70s when we had to have the vaccination certificate. If we're going overseas, you had to have cholera and dengue and other ones, and without that you could not enter certain countries. So it will be a part and parcel. Maybe later on it might get introduced into the passport itself. Who knows? But these are trying times, and these are the times that we'll have to deal with, live with, and the best thing would be for people to start getting used to living with it, and rather than denying the fact it is there, and by the looks of it, it's here to stay. How do we go about our daily things, and managing it would be the big challenge. As we know, many things have been cancelled. ECA has been called off as well, and the ECA holiday, which is that Wednesday, always in the Brisbane CBD area, has been postponed as well. That the actual holiday will be on another day and not on that day. And of course, India Day Fair. Another very, very big event. As you can see, the bridge is already lit up. Our banner is already up there. And congratulations to the team on arranging that. That's well done, but because it was pre-arranged. But it will now be shifted to another day. And I think it is a very good decision by the committee because, looking at the community interest when everyone is out and about, in those sort of numbers, we need to safeguard people, and we will always be working closely in with the directives from Queensland Health and Queensland Government as well. And COVID is, Sardar Kamarjit Singh is saying, COVID has altered everyone's life in, and many have been hit badly. I could not agree more. You very well said, and rightfully said, it has changed the course of history. It will be a time that will be mentioned way down, as right now when there are many points that people make about a World War or pre-World War and things like that. So this is an era, the era that would always be mentioned. And it is a very, very bad time. And some people have been really, really hit hard. So it is here to stay, and it has changed everyone's life. So ladies and gentlemen, I am not showing all the functions and events because they are all in limbo. Many are still negotiating new dates. Some of the organizers have already found new dates, but it will all be dependent upon what happens in the next few days. As we know, things were floating along quite well until this new people in the community were identified. So it is very, very hard, for people to arrange things. Like Gopia Queensland's India Day Fair is something which happens on an annual basis, and of course we know that it did not take place last year. So this year will be the 10th year celebrating it, but it would be the 11th year of its inception. And ECA, of course, a great Queensland iconic event also. So, these are the things that have been put on hold. And of course, it is very hard to, go around arranging things. So, things like this, of course, have to be planned and arranged. But, my plea would be for people, if there is another function or event that is not absolutely necessary, don't arrange it. What is the sense? At this point in time, learn some lesson from COVID. It was all overdone. There was far too many things happening out there. And as soon as there was a bit of relaxation, we could see that as well. So rather than just putting on, any show on a very, very, put together manner where it's not right and hasn't been done properly, it is a reflection on the company. And also what it does, if things are not done, city council has to come and police things, and then new rules are set up, and which makes it hard for other ones. People who are doing the right thing, they get caught up with these sonky deals with, where people just put things together. And of course, there are strict rules about organizations who run functions and events, because if you are a registered organization with an IA, which is an incorporated association number, and you are a registered organization with your accounts being audited and presented and the returns being put in with Office of Fair Trading, you are a legitimate agency allowed to do that. But in this country, they are very lenient, and they let you do what you want to do, and people take advantage of that and go around doing the things that are not always right. So ladies and gentlemen, well done, Queenslanders, with those numbers. It is good to see. That is encouraging. Keep that up. And of course, we know that this is a life-changing event. It is a life, as we knew pre-COVID, we will never get back to that. We will get back to normalcy, but it will not be what it used to be pre-COVID, because now it has happened, it is here, it has changed our life. So ladies and gentlemen, with that, I'd like to say goodbye, and don't forget that tomorrow we have the chief economist from PRD research team, not the sales team, from the research teams, Dr. ST joining us, and we'll take a look at, apart from all the restrictions and where we're going, the facts and figures on that, we will also be looking at what the Olympics announcement means for Queensland, and in particular Brisbane's real estate market. So it would be wonderful. It is not going to be a separate segment. It will be part of the news segment again tomorrow at 10 a.m. So ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you so much for joining in. Stay safe, and make sure that if you are feeling a little bit sick, just a little bit, stay home and get checked. Do not go out, and unless it is absolutely necessary, we must wait and get ourselves checked. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that, it's goodbye from me. We'll see you back at 10 a.m. tomorrow, unless there is any urgent update. If there is any urgent update, we are manning our studios. So if there is any urgent update that needs to be brought to the attention, if we get instructions from, say, Queensland Health, or Queensland Government, or from federal government, that please get this message out to the community straight away, we will. We will do that. We will do that right thing. If we have to go on a different time than the scheduled time, we will still do that in community interest. But apart from that, stay safe. We will see you tomorrow at 10. And thank you very much for joining in.